This is Bachmann's second Class 57 with the contemporary Great Western Railways livery, and having seen the positive reviews of their first model, my expectations were high. I wasn't disappointed, so it's time to take a closer look. Hi, thanks for joining today's review. So the first thing we'll do is kick off with a short unboxing of the model. We'll follow that with a close-up and 360-degree view. We'll then get into a brief running session to see how it performs on the track. We'll follow that up with a summary, and then we'll get into our scoring and recommendations. Okay, let's get underway. Hi, today we're going to do this unboxing for this Class 57 from Bachmann. And it's actually in the GWR livery, the green livery. So this is quite a contemporary locomotive. The version I have here is a DCC Sound fitted. You can get it as a DCC ready as well. And it's the Restormel Castle. And say this is in the GWR livery, my first locomotive ever in this livery. So we're going to take a look at this guy out of the box, and we'll bring it through the rest of the normal review process. So I'm going to take it out of the packaging pretty quickly because it's standard packaging. There's nothing to talk about there if you're familiar with Bachmann. It comes with the usual set of codes and functions, which go all the way down to 22, which is pretty good. That's more than the typical numbers I would have seen. So looking forward to playing with some of these later on. So this is more than I've seen on some of the other Bachmann locomotives that I have. So we'll be looking forward to that. And then just for people for detail, it is a Lock Sound 5 decoder. So it is the latest, which is good to see. And now we'll take this out, and you can probably see the etched nameplates we have here and the etched kind of logo as well. So some people might really be into that. So that's nice to get. Then we get the usual detailing kit, and it's got the dummy DCC connector in there. It's got some snow plows, which I'm going to add to the front. An alternative coupler. Looks to have taken out these fans, probably to fit the sound function in the model. So at least they give them to you in the package, so you can reinstall them if you take the sound out. So that's standard sort of package. Comes with this quite nice protective film. Now some more recent locomotives are trying to come with that, which is good. Which is better than just ordinary plastic. Now, this comes with the normal weight, and so we'll give her a weigh in as we normally would do. Comes in the GWR, this kind of dark green gloss finish, similar to the coaches, and I do like it. I think it's quite a nice livery, and quite a nice finish. So a lot of detail on this model. We will do close-ups, etc. on it. I think actually, just to put it down for a minute, the roof actually has some really nice detail, tremendous detail on the roof. You've got these metal pieces. I really like the metal pieces at the side here. That's where the fans came, so I can see the speaker underneath there. So they've been replaced with the speaker. Overall, quite a lot of nice roof detail there. Looking at the front of the model, so this is a Class 57, as I said, one of the latest incarnations of the 57. Expect spring buffers, which it does have. It does obviously have the normal lighting, directional lighting, cab lighting as well. And we do have a fitted driver in there, which again is typical for Bachmann, which I do like to see. We've got nice metal handrails on the side there. Nice bogies as well. Overall, this is also some extra detail on the underbody on this side, so that's interesting. So this side actually has some extra detail, so we might want to use this side for the photography. So overall, it's a nice model. The windows are open. There's an open window there, which is fine. A lot of detail in the cab area, which is kind of interesting. It's kind of a back panel in the cab that's kind of appeared. So just behind the driver there, which I haven't seen that before. So overall, this looks like a really nice model. We'll do the close-up view on it now. And I think with any models, it's like a locomotive like this. Performance and appearance are the two big things for me, and obviously we've got the sound function as well. So there's what we want to see. So next we'll do the close-up views, and then we'll get into the running session with this guy. We'll get him running and actually start seeing how she performs. Okay, so far so good. Looks really nice. Okay, now we're going to get into our close-up view. So we get to see this model in a bit more detail, and I think it gives a very clear view actually of and you can see things like the handrail there, the bogie detail, that white piping detail there underneath the locomotive body, the nice rendering of the GWR logo. There's a lot of roof detail, and we'll see that in the 360 view a bit more. We've got the nameplate there, and as I say, this does come with the etched nameplates and the etched logo as well if you want to put that on. A lot of labelling detail around the body there, and again some nice detail on the bogies. You can see the nice window frame there. And then we get into the front area, the separately fitted handrails there, metal handrails, and the detail around the cab. And there is actually quite a bit of detail in the cab itself. It is actually a bit more detail than I've seen on other Class 57, some of the older models that I would have seen. So overall very nice. So here we're taking a 360 view, so you can see into the cab there with the driver. And again, you can see the roof detailed, the very nice, those metal panels on either side there. Now the one disappointing thing, I guess, is with this particular model, this is a sound fitted model. The actual vents, the actual parts of the vents have been taken out to fit the speaker underneath. So you miss those. They actually look quite good when you actually get them in the non-sound version of this model. But a lot of paneling on top there, the access doors there on the top for maintenance purposes, etc. You've got the aerials on front and back. You've got headlights on this as well as the kind of directional lights, and they're quite bright actually, which is good, which is prototypical. I like to see a nice bright headlight. So overall, a very nice looking, clean looking model in this livery, and I was pretty impressed. So here we get into the running session. So we'll get going pretty quickly here. So we're pulling a rake of 8 Mark III coaches in the Great Western livery. The first 4 are actually the sliding door versions, and the following 4 are the regular slam door versions. Now, I'm going to do a separate review of the relative differences between those two coach types, because there are a number of probably more subtle differences that don't jump out at you, but that's for another video. For this one, I'm just using them as my rake. Say it's a healthy 8-car rake. But Mark IIIs from Hornby are always good runners, so these are not a particularly large load on the locomotive. We'll start at a pretty slow speed, and we're going to rack this right up to the maximum speed of the locomotive. I guess the first thing I have to say is that out of the box, the performance of this locomotive is impeccable. Even without being run in, it can do a slow crawl, straight away when you put it on the track. Now, the majority of my testing was done under DCC, because this was DCC fitted from day one. I did do a little bit of testing on DC, and the sound, for example, the engine sound will play on a DC layout, so if you want to use it there. We're getting up to speed here, and I think you can see how smooth it is, and the fantastic pulling power. I'm running at the maximum speed configuration. CV5 is at 255, which is going to give you the maximum speed that this can do. And at a prototypical speed, that comes out to be 117 miles per hour, so it's actually higher than the 95 miles an hour it should be. So I actually get to that speed here. We're probably up at that speed at this point. And this locomotive, absolutely no problem pulling that 8-car rake at that speed, which is really good, as well as the really good low-speed performance I talked about. And I tested this on both my Radius 2 circuit and my Radius 3. Now, I didn't run it at this speed on the Radius 2, and I wouldn't advise you to do that. I'd only do this sort of speed on a Radius 3 or a Radius 4. But no problems over the point work or anything like that, and really impeccable performance. I was really impressed. This is probably one of the best performing Bachmann locomotives that I have, and the Bachmanns are pretty good in general in terms of the diesels, are good performers. So we're slowing down now. So we'll come into the station, we'll start getting down to quite a slow speed. And I'll say that there's another video to talk about those coaches. And here we're getting down to a bit of a crawl, and I'll see that now we get into the next shot. But overall, really pleased. It was a joy to run this locomotive. Some locomotives, a kind of difficult, they're unresponsive to your DCC controls, etc. And there's some problems in terms of running over different track work. Nothing with this. This is impeccable performance. Really pleased. And we'll just crawl along here. The DCC function has quite a nice braking function on it, which I've applied, and now I've taken it off a little bit to move a bit more slowly to get to the end of the platform, and then we'll bring her to a halt. Really top notch, 10 out of 10 performance from this locomotive. Okay, now we're going to get into the summary. So we've been looking at the Bachmann Class 57/6, locomotive number 57602, Restormel Castle in the GWR green livery. Comes in two variants, a 21-pin DCC ready version and the DCC Sound fitted version, which is what we've been actually testing here. It's Locksound 5 based, which is the latest in terms of sound technology, and does play under DC as well, so you'll get the locomotive sound. You won't be able to control all the sounds like you can obviously under DCC, but you will get the locomotive, you'll get the startup sounds and the braking sounds. It's got all-wheel pickup and dual bogie drive, which gives it really impeccable driving performance. A lot of extra features, sprung buffers front and rear, a fitted driver, etched name and logo plates, detailing kit. And it comes with directional and cab lighting under both DCC and DC, and it also has that bright headlight I mentioned as well, which I do like. The unbox weight is a pretty heavy 545 grams, which is typical, I suppose, for Bachmann, but it's a good weight of locomotive, and it contributes obviously to the good performance. The prototypical top speed that it was achieved during the running session was 117 miles per hour, which I know isn't prototypical. It should be 95 miles per hour. That was at the maximum CV setting, and we're drawing 190 milliamps at that particular speed. Now that was for the locomotive only, and I say running at full power. The retail selling price it does vary quite a bit. So for the DC ready version, it's in the 135 to 185 range. And I think typically you'll see it around the 150, 155, which is as much, I think, as you'd want to be paying for it. And then for the DCC Sound version, you go between about 230 and they recommend a retail price, which is over £300, really expensive. So definitely, be looking for the lower end of that scale. And typically, obviously, you do see it in the 230 to 240 range. So certainly shouldn't be looking to spend any more than that on this locomotive. I think it's getting very pricey above that. So the scoring I've split out. So I've actually changed my scoring here. I'm actually scoring out a 10 as opposed to 5 from previously. And the reason I'm doing that is to give a bit more granularity in the final score. And you'll see there in the final scores I've kind of gone down to 1 digit of accuracy, which again, I want to be able to differentiate a little bit more between locomotives in terms of their scoring. So on this one, the running performance is a 10 out of 10. It was flawless. The low speed performance, it didn't even need to be run in. Now I did run it in before running it at that speed with the 8 coaches, so I did give it an hour plus of running in time. But when I did take it out of the box and did the initial tests either on DC or DCC, it just ran really, really smoothly, which is fantastic, because some locomotives don't, and they do need to be run in to even get to that. And I'll say that the top speed performance is really good, and the pulling power is really good. Appearance and detail, I'm giving 9 out of 10. I think overall it's a very nice looking locomotive. I do like the livery, and it's got a nice level of detail on it as well. There is that issue with the fans with the sound version, because the speaker, you've taken out the fans to put the speaker in there, and it doesn't actually look as good. So there is a little bit of a drawback there. But overall, a very nice looking locomotive. For the sound version, this is the ASF version. I'm rating the sound at a 7 out of 10. It's adequate and passable, and I'm okay with it, but I think some people may not be pleased with it. And I think, again, a little bit of improvement on the speaker would have helped that. This is a Locksound 5 decoder, so you can always reblow that to put in, say, a Lego Man Biffo sounds or something like that. That would be better. But it's not the worst in the world, but it's not the best either. So a 7 out of 10. Extras and variants. Well, this is the second in the series of these. So I suppose Bachmann are going to probably do future iterations of other different versions of this. So this is the second, and so you've got the 2 variants between the DCC Ready and Sound. And you do get a lot of extras, so there is, it gets all the usual Bachmann locomotive extras that in terms of the fitted driver, the lighting, etc., which are all good things to get. So, good score here. The build quality and packaging, I'm giving a 9 out of 10. The only thing here is that the packaging from Bachmann doesn't have the kind of end piece protection that you get on the DAPL protection packaging, for example. DAPL just have that extra little bit of packaging. So that's what's preventing this from being a 10. But apart from that, the packaging is more than adequate. But I would probably like to see that extra layer of protection for the heavier locomotives like this is. I think that just helps when they're in transit and if they get dropped. And that's the problem that you tend to see. But overall, again, a good score. Price value, I'm putting it at a 7 out of 10. That's based on the kind of typical prices that you'll see. If you were to go by the recommended retail prices, it'd be closer to a 5 because the recommended retail price is very expensive. So that's based on the typical prices. So overall, we're getting 2 scores. I'm giving 2 scores. One for with sound, which is kind of pulled down a little bit, I guess, because the sound isn't scoring so high. And then one without sound as a DCC ready model or a DCC ready model fitted with DCC controller as an 8.8, which is a really, really strong score. So when we get into the overall recommendation, this is highly recommended. I really like this locomotive. I really enjoyed running it. I think it looks really good. It's good quality. It's a contemporary Class 57. You'll see these running on the railways today. Out of the box, it runs really, really well. Good level of detail. As I say, the sound is adequate. And if you can get it at a reasonable price, I think it's a very good option. Right now, as most people will know, it's nearly impossible to get a Great Western Railway HST, or if you can get one, you'll probably pay a small fortune for it. So if you do have those Mark III coaches, you need something to pull them with, and I think this is a very worthy model to pull them with. I think the other piece I think that's probably missing, and it's more on the coach side, is getting sleeper coaches, because that would be one of the configurations you'd want for this. Would be the sleeper service. Unfortunately, those aren't generally available at the moment either. But this locomotive, highly recommended. I have another video that I'm going to cover the coaches on, and there's another story behind those. But I think you should have seen from the running session that the combination of this locomotive with the Hornby Mark III GWR coaches is a very nice combination, and really makes a very nice train, and a very high performing train. As I said, I was running 117 miles an hour prototypical speed in that running session, and it was flawless. So really, that's it. That's today's review. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoy this locomotive. I really have to recommend it. It's my first Great Western Railway locomotive. I do hope to get one of the first Great Western HSTs that Hornby are bringing out towards the end of the year. So I do have those on pre-order. I'll be looking at those again. But this is really good and very, very impressive. And I think this locomotive could probably pull a rake of 16 to 20 of those Mark III coaches. I wouldn't recommend running them at the sort of speeds I was running them at. Still a really nice performing locomotive. So highly recommended. Hope you enjoyed today's review, and we'll hopefully see you on the next one. The next one I will be covering off the coaches, the Mark III coaches, and I'll be doing a comparison between the slam door and the sliding door coaches. And as I say, there's probably a few things there I didn't expect to find, and this should be something that should be of interest to anybody who's wondering about making a purchasing decision as to which coach you might get. And hopefully I'll help you with that in that review. Okay, thanks for joining today. We'll hopefully see you on the next one. And in the meantime, happy modelling.